About a third of Launceston's residents live in the northern suburbs. That's about 20,000 people here in Rocherlea and in Ravenswood, Mowbray, Waverley, Newnham, Invermay and Mayfield. The suburb of Rocherlea and parts of Ravenswood were subdivided to meet public housing demand, and there's still lots of social and community housing in those areas. Housing Tasmania also owns a lot of vacant land in the area, and with more than 3,000 people on the public housing wait list, some of those vacant lots are being flagged for more social housing. But there are concerns that those homes will only work if there's an increase to shops and services to go with them.
It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and I think if it wasn't housing estate, it would be worth a whole heap of money because it's just a beautiful spot.
Despite the pretty landscape, stigma has followed the suburb of Ravenswood decades after it was subdivided for public housing.
It definitely gets a bad rap, and I think it's so unjustified. We've got a couple of people in a larger community that get all the recognition, which is, you know, a real shame because this is the most connected, giving community I've ever lived in.
For many, the heart of Ravenswood is its neighbourhood house. Nettie Burr is the manager.
Hi, ladies. Hello.
Her role is part-time. Almost everyone else is a volunteer. Everyone is welcome for lunch, classes or a chat. A resident of 42 years, Jackie Beams, regularly pops in. Her home in the subdivision was basically brand new when she moved in.
Every time there's something on the news, it's from the troubled suburb of Ravenswood. And I mean, 95% of the people here are brilliant.
8 kilometres away, Rocherlea has experienced similar reputational damage.
It was the last broadacre housing development in Tasmania at the time, so that was established in the 1980s. But it was 400 homes put out on the fringe with nothing else around it, except for the neighbourhood house.
Denise Delphin is about to retire as General Manager of the Northern Suburbs Community Centre. She was one of Rocherlea's early residents.
There was lack of transport. One shop, and I think there's still one shop. So when you put a whole lot of people out in an area where there is nothing around to support it, that can create challenges for any community.
Rocherlea is now established with a football club, community shed, hotel and takeaway shop. But there's no supermarket, the nearest GPs are in Mowbray and bus transport is patchy.
Down the hill to Mowbray can be a long way if you don't have that opportunity to access transport.
In the past few decades, Tasmanian governments have moved away from broadacre social housing, stipulating that new properties need reasonable access to jobs, shops, transport and schools. New homes could soon be added to both Rocherlea and Ravenswood. A recent expressions of interest process identified more than 40 vacant lots of land in Rocherlea and 13 in Ravenswood that could be made available for social housing.
Broad acreage housing estates haven't worked previously, and in some ways I think it's an easy way out for the government.
There's no denying Tasmania needs more public housing. The most recent data showed more than 3,300 individuals and families were on Tasmania's public housing waitlist. It takes about 63 weeks, or about 15 months, for priority applicants to be housed. Some of the greatest demand is in Launceston. Housing Tasmania is the state's public housing manager, but Community Housing Limited manages about 1,200 homes in the northern suburbs. Many people looking for social or community housing in the northern suburbs already live in the area.
They would either be in accommodation which they cannot afford, or they would be in accommodation where they're sharing or perhaps couch surfing, and maybe staying with relatives, and that brings other pressures onto them.
The organisation employs mostly local residents, offers some traineeships and supports the Ravenswood Community Garden and other projects. State Manager Oscar Norton believes more homes can create the critical mass needed for more businesses and infrastructure.
If you don't have enough people to warrant the shop, then the people who are living there have to travel into town.
The state government says developments around the country have shown that as communities grow, retail, health and services also expand. Kelly Leary has lived in Ravenswood on and off since she was 16.
This area is pretty quiet. It's actually nice, yeah.
She thinks more housing could be good for the area.
It'd be good, like, for the shops and that down here already. Yeah, because some of them have shut down and that because there hasn't been enough clientele.
But it's not up to housing managers to supply shops and services.
Housing doesn't have the authority or the scope or the mandate to do it all. Other agencies need to step in and provide those services, and they need to be resourced to do so.
Housing expert Kathleen Flanagan says it's poor practice to pursue any kind of housing development in areas without adequate services. But Housing Tasmania already owns land in the northern suburbs, bringing down the cost of potential development and rent.
So there's a whole range of reasons why they're choosing these sites. But it is a concern if that development isn't backed up with additional services.
The Launceston City deal includes a plan to boost employment, education and health outcomes in the northern suburbs, growing a brighter future for the next generation. One of the challenges in suburbs like Rocherlea and Waverley is getting to and from work, school, shops and services. A community-run program is helping locals get their licences and gain employment. But a town planning expert says more investment is needed to make lives easier.
At an age when most teenagers were learning to drive with their parents, Kimberley Hearps hit a roadblock getting her hours up.
So I was living between some friends' places for about 6 months.
Without a licence, Kimberley's work opportunities were limited, but a driver mentor program opened the door for a fresh start. Getting her licence last year led to a job with a local police and community youth club.
I've kind of just expanded my knowledge immensely since being here.
Kimberley learnt to drive through a program run out of Launceston's northern suburbs. Unemployment in the area is high. In Rocherlea, more than a quarter of residents are out of work. But local transport options don't make it easy to secure a job.
These suburbs are almost completely made up of houses. For some residents, the walk to a shop, doctor or school takes more than half an hour. That leaves people in the area very dependent on cars or bus services to get around.
More than 1,000 people catch buses in the northern suburbs each day, but most of the local bus routes don't connect with neighbouring suburbs. The only bus that does connect Waverley and Ravenswood to essential services in Mowbray is a trial route that runs just twice a day. Leah Richards spends 2 hours a day walking her son to and from school in Mowbray. They used to catch the bus, but the timetable changed this year.
With a disabled son, it's just so hard. The bus is 9:20 of a morning and 2:30 of an afternoon.
The Department of State Growth says there are buses servicing both Mowbray Heights and East Tamar primary schools, but there are community concerns about routes and buses running late. For Leah, what would be a 15-minute drive to her son's specialist doctor is also a trial.
I've got to travel 30-minute walk to Mowbray and then catch another bus and then another bus from town straight to Kings Meadows.
Like Kimberley, Leah is getting her driver's licence through the Wheels for Work program in Ravenswood. Volunteers supervise people living with disadvantage to help get their hours up.
So they may not have an adult that's got a full licence to sit next to them. They may not have a suitable vehicle and they're on a healthcare card or a low income, so they cannot afford to pay for professional lessons.
In less than 18 months, Wheels for Work has helped 51 learners from the northern suburbs gain their provisional licence. Of those, 32 have since secured employment and 5 have started training. With few shops and services located in Ravenswood and Rocherlea, some people resort to driving despite not having a licence. In Rocherlea over the past 5 years, 173 people have been detected driving without a licence or driving an unregistered car. That's the equivalent of 16% of the suburb's residents, compared with 5% statewide. Mechanic Don Hazeldine sees mostly older cars come through his doors, many in need of costly repairs.
We're doing a lot of alternators, starter motors and radiators, which is only age that's catching up to them.
The federal government's temporary boost to welfare payments has helped many people afford maintenance.
A lot of people did come in and get tyres and brakes and things done, which I thought was good actually.
All three levels of government are looking at transport in the northern suburbs as part of the Launceston City deal, but the plan's release has been delayed by the pandemic. Stephen Burgess is a town planning consultant.
Well, I think you should be able to move in a way that doesn't send you broke. Yeah? Like, you should be able to get to places within 15 minutes without using a car, things that you need: childcare, shops, pharmacy, fresh food.
In established suburbs such as Rocherlea, Mr Burgess says investment could make life easier for residents.
It's a government problem. They should have thought about it, so now they've got to repair it, is to get some quality urban villages out in the middle of these suburbs that resupply these communities with things that they need.
Kimberley believes that would help other locals find their dream job.
Closer employment options to where you're actually living would be really beneficial, especially for young people.
Creating opportunities to reach new heights. Selina Ross, ABC News.
One of the strengths in the northern suburbs is a parenting program that's helping vulnerable families stay together. Uniting Tasmania works with parents who've often experienced childhood trauma or neglect themselves, giving them the skills to safely look after their children. More than 100 families have been through the therapeutic program.
I grew up with my mum most of the time because my dad left. But then we got back with Dad and we've done week on, week off.
Caitlin Lee Lincoln lives in Launceston's northern suburbs. Her childhood experience isn't unique.
I used to run away from home. I used to go out in town late with my friends. And I'm hoping my kids don't grow up and like that.
Caitlin is now 23 and has 3 children of her own. Her son Casey is from a previous relationship. Caitlin struggled with parenting and Casey spent the first 18 months of his life living with his aunt while Caitlin turned her life around.
How many? 1 sleep.
1 more?
Yep.
Yeah, I got my next report.
He wasn't really getting the mother attention compared to when my sister was looking after him. So we had to reconnect as a proper mother and son.
A therapeutic program dedicated to new parents has helped Caitlin gain the skills to be a full-time mum. The New Parent and Infant Network and another program for pregnant and young parents have been guiding Tasmanian families for 2 decades.
The unspoken but very much heart of both programs is increasing the safety of Tasmania's children.
Both groups meet at Newnham in Launceston's northern suburbs, close to where most families live. Sessions are like family gatherings.
I want to share me.
They eat together, play together and discuss parenting techniques and how to create safe families.
When I was little I didn't want any kids. But now I have 3 of them and more to come.
Well, I was in a bad relationship and I guess it just brought me to, wanting to be better for myself and, just be the best mum I can be with the support.
Family violence is something that's really significant. Many of our families have come from situations of poverty or financial disadvantage, and that can have an impact on their experience growing up themselves and the cycle that they follow as adults. So a lot of the New PIN goal is about breaking some of those cycles.
Since 2010, 115 Tasmanian families have been involved in the New PIN program. According to Uniting Tasmania's data, in the past 2 years, 2/3 of families functioned better after completing the program, and 84% of children involved felt safer as a result.
We've seen some families who are really on the cusp of child safety service intervention and really at risk of having their children removed and placed into out-of-home care, and to see them turn that back around is really inspirational.
Caitlin was involved for 12 months before she started caring for Casey full-time.
I had to change my life around for better, and since I've done that, it's been nothing but perfect.
Just behind where the parenting groups meet, the local primary school is also preparing to better support vulnerable families.
What will Mum see?
A bug.
A bug.
Simone Fox is overseeing the development of an East Tamar Child and Family Centre. It will be the second child and family centre in the northern suburbs, providing more child health and psychology services.
Some of our parents have had really bad experiences with schools themselves, and so we've been encouraging lots of parents to come in through a variety of programs, and the CFLC is a crucial point to engage those families.
In Newnham, Kaz Bella started the Baby Bugs community playgroup 7 years ago, as there was a lack of group parenting services.
Some of them, they don't even have the extended family, so it's a lot about, the group's a lot about the welcoming side of it and making connections with other families.
For the families that now feel connected, there are hopes that soon there'll be more than just support services for local children.
I'm hoping they listen and actually get more play equipments up in Rocherlea.
A community determined to create a vibrant next generation. Monica Champ, ABC News.